Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is I, Test on a Quest, aka Johnny. I hope everyone is having a fantastic weekend. And in today's video, we are going to be going over my custom rosters for NHL 26 on the Xbox Series X or S. It is my free agency rosters. They are finally ready. I got these done a lot faster than I was able to. I was trying to wait an extra day or two to see if any other major moves happen. They have not, so I figure, you know what? Let's go ahead. I'll upload these ones, and if anything happens, like I said, I'm gonna have probably a couple more free agency rosters up, like going out over the next until basically NHL 27 comes out. So, first things first, I will show you the free agency. So right now, the only really ones here are basically players that are actually free agents from before free agency started, or if they were bought out, like Jonathan Drouin. I am keeping the current players that are on expiring contracts that are not technically on their current team anymore, because it helps out with the roster number of players on contracts for teams and franchise ones, so they're not just going to have like 10 contract spots open and sign like all the free agents. It just keeps them towards the 50 contract limit. And then usually, I've checked this 2 times now. Usually, most of the time, the majority of the free agency players that are free agents in real life do hit the open market on the 1st of July. Not many of them really re-sign, so technically, it should be good for franchise mode. Um, in case you're wondering how to download my custom roster, obviously I haven't uploaded these ones yet. We're gonna do that at the end of the video. That is not the correct spot to go to, but come over to roster sharing, come over to the hub, click download community files, and if you come down, I shouldn't be too far. Yep, so I'm right here. These are my trade deadline, which thank you to everyone who's downloaded. Over 2,000 downloads. That's kind of insane. I just downloaded. Goddamn. That's not what I meant to do. But if you click more options, view creator files, as you'll see, I have my post-draft rosters, which is my most recent, and then obviously these ones are going to be my most recent. That's how you'll be able to download them. So you'll do that, and then just make sure when you download, make sure you set as active, and you'll be able to hop into it. So for the creation zone, I did add in the players that were selected in the second and third, well, and the third round of the 2026 draft. I am going to keep upgrading and adding players from that draft as well throughout other rosters, but I want to get these rosters out as quickly as possible. I did make some changes to them as well, a little bit higher overalls and stuff. So let's go ahead and let's do this. So I do have obviously a couple of contracts that are going to be not actually accurate to real life, and I will go through that. Obviously, Leo Carlson does have his $18 million contract, regardless if he signs in Anaheim or goes to Philly. But as you can see, Nick Jensen has a contract of $15 million. That is because when you load into franchise mode, they are technically Anaheim is technically under the salary cap. So every single player gets like their contracts bumped up by like 500,000, and I'd rather just have one player make a lot of money for year one. He's already has his contract extension for the next year. It's it's just to keep everyone's contracts as accurate as possible. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Pavel Mintyukov. But yep, they don't have a defense sign, which is kind of crazy. They have only really like 4 NHL players. It looks maybe Ian Moore probably plays, but they need some players. So we'll do all the skaters, and then I'll go back and we'll go through the goalies. So Boston obviously picked up JJ Peterka. They picked up Will Borgen. Same thing. So like you see, Mikey Esiamont has a contract actually above $1 million, but to keep the contracts accurate for Boston, I had to drop him and Corrali down. Buffalo, all their contracts were good. I upgraded Zach Benson because obviously he had a fantastic playoffs. God, that series against the Montreal, he was a pain in the butt, but man, is he ever a really good player. Calgary, obviously they picked up Simon Nemec. They have Zane Parekh. They also picked up Maxim Typaklov in that deal. Carolina, obviously they're still really solid. And if you see any contracts or player overalls or potentials that you think aren't high enough, please let me know. I try to make sure I do everything possible to make sure I look at stats and analytics. Chicago. So another example, Bo Byram technically has a contract of $12.5 million for the next 6 years. Technically, you can't add it because he still has 2 years left. And if you add it in franchise mode, they don't. EA does not care that it will be here on the extension salary. So unfortunately, he doesn't get his contract, which means if you're a Chicago fan, you go into franchise mode, you might be able to sign him to a little bit of a better deal instead of $12 million. And same thing, you'll see Cole Smith makes $10 million for the first year just to keep all these contracts at their current value so they don't go up. But I will show you the rest of their team. Obviously, they picked up Jordan Greenway. Colorado. Colorado really was lucky, especially after moving Nikushin. The only player I had to really drop was Nicholas Roy. So that was pretty good. Obviously, they picked up Noah Jolson in free agency. Columbus looks like they're probably losing Werenski and Marchenko at some point. They didn't really do too much in free agency. Obviously, they brought in Ryan Lomberg. They re-signed Branson. Dallas, obviously, they're going to be losing Jason Robertson. They brought back Jamie Benn. Let's see. Detroit, obviously, they're going to be losing Larkin at some point. They didn't really bring in anybody. Well, they brought in Keegan Colasar, which I thought was a really good pickup for them. Edmonton, obviously, they've brought in some Ryan Shea. They brought in who else? Matthew Joseph. Obviously, the Darnell Nurse trade for Shakir Mukhamadullin. On Florida, obviously, all these ones are basically the same. They didn't really bring in anybody besides Racco Gudis. Garnet Hathaway, of course, is now there. Lars Eller. Speaking of Florida, you'll see that Brady Tkachuk is making $3 million instead of his like 8 point something. It's again same. It's to keep the contracts the same, and it allows anyone with an extension to make sure that their extensions are actually accurate. And they're not going to be trading Brady Tkachuk at all. He's got a no movement clause. I'd rather have one player's contract be a little bit off, or in this case, really off, and then have to like change out like all these contracts because they're all dropped because of how EA handles the salary cap in franchise mode. Same thing for LA. I had to drop Drew Doughty down to $6 million to make sure that the extensions for Panarin and Kempe were accurate. Obviously, they no longer have Kopitar, so he is gone. They signed Brant Clark to that amazing extension. They brought in Eric Holla. They kept Scott Lawton, brought back Corey Perry. Unfortunately, they still have Cody Ceci on their decor. Minnesota. So same thing here. Jared Spurgeon, I had to drop to make sure Kaprizov was actually making $17 million in franchise mode. But to like for every single player I've dropped, if they're kind of like a veteran who they're not going to trade in real life, I did fix their clauses to give them no movement clauses, so that way they don't trade them in franchise mode, so it's not like they're not taking advantage of the extra like trade value these players will get because of the fact they dropped their salary. Montreal, obviously, same thing. Unfortunately, Damodoff can't get his extension in game. They haven't really done anything so far besides obviously moving Brendan Gallagher to Vancouver. Nashville has brought in obviously Ross Colton, Maverick Bork, Niels Hoglander, Jack Drury, Alex Kerfoot, Labushkin, Adam Edstrom from the Rangers. New Jersey, obviously, they tendered that offer sheet to Barrett Hayton. They brought in, obviously, Evan Rodriguez from Florida for Jakob Markstrom. The Islanders didn't really have to change anyone's contract besides just lowering Pajot so everyone's contract doesn't go down. They did bring in Matthias Maselli in free agency. They kept Tony DeAngelo at $4.5 million. The Rangers brought in Pavel Dorofeyev, Sean Dursey, Oliver Bjorkstrand, and of course they brought in Joe Veleno. Ottawa, obviously the William Eklund. Still waiting to see what Claude Giroux's gonna decide. They kept Jordan Spence, amazing contract for him. Obviously, they brought in Burakovsky. We look at Philly. They haven't really done anything besides that Leo Carlson offer sheet, which if they get that, that's going to be insane for them. Like a potential line of like Konechny, Carlson, and Martone. Oh, Philadelphia fans, you're going to eat with that. Pittsburgh, obviously, they haven't really done much besides bringing in Kuzmenko. They made that trade for Caden Korzak, who a lot of people don't really like, but his analytics for in terms of defense is really solid. They brought in TVR, which is actually an underrated pickup in my opinion. They have Hendrix Lapierre from Washington. San Jose, obviously, they brought in Mason Marchment, Darnell Nurse. They have Jacob Trouba, Michael Kessering. I think that's it in terms of the thing. They just announced that Ryan Reeves won't be back. Seattle, unfortunately, has not been able to get Jason Robertson, if you saw that report. But they do have Bobby McMahon under contract now at 5.7. Still waiting to see where Ellie Tolvanen will sign. They signed Mackie Samoskevich. Shane Wright is going to be gone. They brought in Curtis Douglas. St. Louis obviously moving out Kyrou. Same thing, Camp Fowler's up to 7.6 just to keep everyone's contracts as accurate as possible. They brought in Connor McMichael. They made that trade for Brandon Carlo. They brought in Ross Johnson. Tampa Bay, obviously, they brought in John Carlson. What a pickup he is going to be for them. They also brought in Ilya Mikheyev. They brought in Jeffrey Veal. Toronto, obviously, they brought in Darren Radish. They're probably going to be moving Morgan Riley. Max Domi's making $750K, again, to help with the contract, cap space, and franchise mode. Obviously, they brought in Emil Andre. Utah, let's see, they brought in Anders Lee. John Marino, same thing. He makes $2 million instead of 4.5. It's to keep everyone's contracts. It's basically to allow Logan Cooley to actually be making $10 million. And like I said, just like I did with Spurgeon, I fixed up the contract clauses. So instead of having, I think he had a 10-team no trade clause, I gave him a no movement clause for the next 2 years. Unless Utah is really bad next year, I doubt they're going to be moving John Marino. Obviously, Barrett Hayton, we'll see if he'll be staying in Utah. They brought in Andrew Peak. Vancouver, obviously, has not really done much besides basically swapping Marcus Pettersson for Jamie Oleskiak. They brought in Paul Cotter. And of course, they brought in Brendan Gallagher. They brought back Luke Shen as well. Vegas, I did drop Vegas's Mark Stone down to 1.5. Again, this allows Jack Eichel to actually make 13.5. It makes Rasmus Anderson able to make 8.5. It keeps William Karlsson at $4 million. Again, it's not actually ideal, but to make the franchise mode at least as accurate as possible, I can do. That's what I have to do. Obviously, they brought in Parker Weatherspoon and Victor Olofsson. Probably saw it. Smith is not back. They kept Jeremy Lozon at $4 million. Washington, obviously, Ovi's down to make sure the cap hits are good. They brought in Alex Tuck, Jordan Kyrou, Boone Jenner, Vincent Desharnais. Yeah, Washington's going to be scary, especially if Cole Hudson continues to develop. Like, Washington's probably top 2 team in the Metro next year. And then Winnipeg, obviously they haven't really done much. They brought in Mario Ferraro, which I think is a really good pickup for them. I think that's it for that. And then in terms of goaltending, we will go over this really quick. So Anaheim brought in Laurent Brossoit. Boston no longer has Corpusalo. They have Mikey DiPietro as their backup. We'll see if that stays true. Buffalo with Line and Luukkonen after moving out Devin Levi. Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley. Brendan Bussy and Peter Kochekov, obviously, now with Freddie Anderson in Edmonton. Chicago's got Spencer Knight. Colorado, Blackwood, Wedgwood. Columbus is Jet Greaves and Elvis Merzlikins. Jake Ottinger and Casey DeSmith. Gibson and Talbot. Talbot's probably gone, so Tarasov's probably their backup. We'll see where Cam Talbot signs. Obviously, Freddie Anderson, Tristan Jarred, Connor Ingram is gone. Markstrom and Akira Schmidt are now the goaltending tandem in Florida. LA still with Kemper and Forsberg, Gustafsson and Wallstad, with Kelvin Pickard as their third goaltender now. Same thing for Montreal. They signed Jakub Dobeš to that $5 million extension, but it doesn't really work in franchise mode, unfortunately. But he is their goaltender. Samuel Montembeault probably gone. UC Saros and Justus Unanen. Jake Allen, David Rittich, and Nico Dawes for New Jersey. The Islanders obviously have Sorokin and now Vitek Vanacek as their backup. The Rangers have Shesterkin, Korpisalo, and Spencer Martin. Ottawa now has Linus Ullmark and Samuel Ersson as their goaltending tandem. Again, same thing. Dan Vladar signed that $5 million extension. It's not really going to work out. They brought in Joseph Woll, which I think is a really solid goaltending tandem for them. Pittsburgh obviously now has Silvas and Blomqvist. San Jose has Eric Comrie, Askarov, and Alex Nedeljkovic as their goaltending, their three goalie team system. Seattle's got Joey Daccord, Philip Grubauer. St. Louis obviously with Binnington and Hofer. Vasilevsky now with Dennis Hildeby and Johansson as the backups. Toronto obviously now has Bobrovsky and Anthony Stolarz. Velmeka in Utah with Sebastian Cossa as the backup. Vancouver obviously with Demko, Lankinen, and Tolopilo. Carter Hart and Aiden Hill in Vegas. And then Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. And then in Winnipeg, it is now Connor Hellebuck and new backup Stuart Skinner. So now for the AHL, we're just going to quickly show you the top prospects. But I have gone through, made sure some of, obviously, like all the contract extensions are there as of July 5th at 8 a.m. They are all up to date. Obviously, as moves keep happening, I will update my rosters. I don't think I'm going to put out a video each time I do, so just check out my files each week. I'll probably have an update, probably maybe once every 2 weeks. If there's a lot of moves in 1 week, then I'll do that. If there's ever a major move, I'll probably update them as well. Like I said, we're going to update these rosters all the way through up until NHL 27 is out, and probably into NHL 27 for people who still are going to be playing NHL 26 at that point. But yeah, these rosters are probably some of my best rosters in my opinion that I've made. Obviously, not everyone's going to agree with that, and that's okay. And that is for that. We'll show the goaltending really quickly. Obviously, Devin Levi is now in Edmonton, which is a really good pickup. There's a lot of goaltending prospects who I do have their potentials probably above where they should be, but the one reason why I do that is I like having I like having real life goalies develop in game. It's a lot more fun, in my opinion. See, obviously some goaltending. Drew Camesso. Matt Sogard, obviously, is now in. Honestly, Tampa Bay picking up Matt Sogard and Dennis Hildeby is kind of scary to have those as your potential 3 goalies that you can go to. Obviously, Toronto's got really Arthur. Honestly, you know what? I'm gonna do this right here, right now, before we update this. He was fantastic in the playoffs for them, so we're gonna change that to high starter. Shout out Toronto; they have really good goaltending prospects here. Jackson Stober, Wilkes-Barre, obviously. And that is it for the AHL. Obviously, I fixed up all the prospects. I'll show you just like the top 3 that went. So obviously in the W, not technically, but he is technically still on Medicine Hat. We have Gavin McKenna at High Elite. We also have in the W on no, not the W. in the nope, not the W. I keep misclicking. Just take a second. Here, I'll show you for Mr. Ivar Stenberg. He's also high elite at 81. And then in the O from Brantford, we have obviously Caleb Malhotra, medium elite at 78 overall. And then I think that's it. Yep, that is it. So let's go ahead and get these let's get these rosters out there. And any player that has retired, so Jonathan Taves, Anze Kopitar, they are now off of the roster. Usually I leave them in, but technically they're not playing into year 2 of franchise mode, and I don't want them to not retire. But let's go ahead and upload these NHL free agency rosters. So I'm going to upload them. We're going to do the description, and then I will bring it back, and we will end the video. Okay, here we go. I am ready to upload these rosters. So the file name is NHL Free Agency Rosters. Obviously, my gamertag is SuzukiOreos. Unfortunately, these rosters are only for Xbox Series X or S, but I do plan on getting a PlayStation at some point. So people on PlayStation who watch my channel, you'll be getting my custom rosters eventually as well. But here we go. Let's upload these rosters. Perfect. Let's go. Upload and make sure hopefully it doesn't crash on me, because that would suck at this point. And boom, they are out. So make sure you go to SuzukiOreos, and to anyone who's going to be downloading these, I appreciate your support, and if there's any changes that you've seen that I could make in terms of overall potential moves I missed, contracts I missed, please go ahead and let me know in the comments. Please go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.